John Krakauer, my god, his name. Hi guys, I am back with another book review of a book that I have finished, of course, recently. What else? Riding on a train. Finished this one on my way back from Berlin in a matter of about 7 or 8 hours. I read this book in one sitting, and that book is Into Thin Air by John Krakauer. This is a nonfiction book about John Krakauer's trek up the side of Mount Everest. This is also related to the 1996 Mount Everest disaster, basically. This happened within my lifetime. I was only 4, so I don't remember it, but it's just interesting to keep that in mind when you're reading the book, and I'm sure some of the people watching this video might remember all the stories of this in 1996, but this is his personal account of what happened. The book begins with sort of a background about Mount Everest and how it's, when it was discovered to be the tallest mountain in the world, of course, and immediately people wanted to conquer it because that's just what humans want to do, that they want to prove that they are the best. And Mount Everest, of course, climbing it means you are the best because you climb the highest mountain. He also tells us a little bit about his life and how he grew up, and he was so used to solo climbing and doing all these crazy different climbs in different places all over the world, and so he's definitely an experienced individual. Now, there are a lot of characters in this book, so much so that there's actually at the beginning sort of like a glossary of all of the people, because the time, sort of the spring of 1996 when he was there, there was tons of different teams or expeditions that were climbing the mountain. With the onset of more modern gear and modern technology, a lot of people were climbing the mountain who weren't necessarily qualified to, like they really didn't have any mountaineering, climbing, ice climbing experience. Now, John definitely did, and he was invited to go because he was writing an article about the commercialization of Everest, because all of these people could suddenly journey there, and he was asked to tag along, write this magazine article for Outsider magazine, and that's why he ended up being there. He was on a team with a bunch of different people, with a Japanese woman, New Zealander, Americans, like lots of different people, and some of them had little to no experience climbing. And of course, when you climb Everest, you have to get acclimatized because it's thousands and thousands of feet up, and so they spent a lot of time slowly making their way up the mountain and slowly coming back down, and so that is part of the book. But he also introduces the characters then, and you really get to know these people because he interacted with them for a couple months. This is all leading up, of course, to that last push to the very summit of Everest. There are a couple base camps, 1 through 4, each of them a couple thousand feet higher than the last one, and eventually they make that last push from the base, from the 3rd and 4th base camp all the way up to the summit of Mount Everest. They try to pick the times when they do it so that it's a good time, that the weather isn't going to be horrible, and also so that they won't be clashing with these other teams. And of course, like I said, it's a disaster, so everything goes wrong, absolutely everything. He's had the time since the accident to figure out what went wrong, what should have been different, and he ponders over it in this book, gives you different scenarios. Other people have written different points of view from this accident, the people who actually survived. This is extremely gripping. Like I said, I read it in a matter of 7 or 8 hours in one sitting. There were certain points where I had to pause and sort of just step back from the book because so many crazy things were happening. People were freezing to death. People were falling off the side of mountains, and oh God. This is an extremely interesting book, both for people who like reading nonfiction, people who like adventure stories. This is well worth your time. I cannot recommend this book enough. It is so good, so heart-wrenching. There was a point at the end where he is talking about all the casualties and how people have been changed by this event, how he was changed by this event, and how he can't stop thinking about it. He thinks about it every day, all the time, and that is completely believable when you read the story and understand exactly what went down and how it happened. But man, I rarely get really moved by a book, like to the point where I actually feel like tears are starting to form in the back of my eyes. I've only ever cried reading one book, and although I did not cry reading this, I definitely had to take a break, step back from it at least twice, and just be like, okay, I need to calm down, absorb what has happened, and just really think about it because it is so powerful. Overall, definitely a 5 out of 5 big fat shiny stars on this book. I'm going to pick up some more books by him. He also wrote Into the Wild about Christopher McCandless and that trek into Alaska. I would say this is my favorite book I have read this year, and I know it's only April. It's a fantastic book. Highly, highly recommend. If any of you have read this book and you loved it, or maybe you didn't love it as much as I did, but you still enjoyed it, or maybe you're a little bit critical of it, feel free to leave your comments below. We can talk about it. It is just such an interesting topic. As always, all of our links are in the doobly-doo: Twitter, Goodreads, Book Depository, email, whatever. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys later.